All right. So I believe we are live. At least that's what the notification is telling me.
That's what I'm seeing.
Officially live. That's like, how is this even possible? Anyway, just kidding. So welcome back to week 2 of the Wednesday Wisdom Unframe of Mind YouTube live stream. I've got a couple friends on with me, and I think as a general format, what I'm going to try to do is something similar to this, where I bring on a couple friends, a couple YouTubers, a couple, just no more than about 4 people, because we don't want to get too chaotic in here, and just people of varying levels of expertise and knowledge bases, and just get a general feel for what everybody knows and wants to talk about. And people might agree with me, they might disagree with me. That's perfectly okay, as long as everybody's respectful. We can have a good time, and I just want to show y'all, viewing audience, if you will, that it is possible to talk to people you disagree with without wanting to stick a knife in their throat. It's just possible. So I'd like to welcome to the show, from week 1, you'll recognize Trent Gander. Okay, I see him waving down there in the corner, but the screen doesn't hear you unless you actually make noise, Trent.
Yes, hello again, everyone. Hi.
There he is. And I've got Miss Nicole from the Breakup YouTube channel.
Hello.
And finally, I have, at the last minute, joining us, as a matter of fact, and I appreciate that, is Mr. Chris from a YouTube channel called Chris Does What?
Yo.
Hey, hey. All right. Well, I sure appreciate y'all joining me today. See what we can come up with and see what kind of damage we can do today. What do you say?
That's a very tempting offer.
Everybody brought them something to drink?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got coffee.
Goodness.
I have
champagne and beer.
See, now this is a real man right here, bringing the beer. See, I've got this little. I've got tea.
I have the most unhealthy option.
What is that? Maple syrup in a bottle?
This is, but I censor up what it is with the kilt for copyright reasons.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm basicing because white girl.
Basic.
Oh God, she's a white girl. And
you controls the pumpkin spice, controls the white girls.
So on my Instagram feed, I guess I was being a basic white girl too.
Yeah.
Never the Starbucks cup, but only because there are no good local options around here, and Starbucks is the only place with a half-assed decent cup of coffee.
Come on, just admit it. You're just a basic white girl at heart.
I am. I don't tell nobody though.
I was going to say the best option is at home.
So I got a few topics. Just let me run through the basic topics that we may or may not touch on today, but this is kind of the general plan. And I'm going to grab my glasses because I'm fucking blind without them. And of course I put my screen way over there. Anyway, so basically, just to give everybody a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today, is I want to cover the Trump and North Korea possible talks that are coming up. I want to talk about what are your investment strategies that you may have in the event that a potential U.S. dollar crash should happen. Also, I want to talk about, as far as the blockchain news, which I want to make sure to include some kind of crypto or blockchain related topic every week. In this case, it's going to be to talk about the Sierra Leone presidential election, in which they used the blockchain to hold their first presidential election, which is pretty cool. Another topic is going to be the Brittany Pettibone, Lauren Southern, and Martin Sellner being banned from the UK, just because, they're white, I guess. And then we also have what's going on today, which I had forgotten about until just a moment ago, which, thank you, Chris, for bringing this one up, is the political walkouts at the school. So those are a few things that I'd like to cover today, and we'll just jump right in then.
Okay.
2 viewers, so hang in there, guys. Hold on to the seat of your pants. Or, if you're not wearing pants, maybe you're wearing assless chaps. That's okay too. I don't care. I don't judge.
I fully endorse the assless chaps concept.
Matter of fact, I'm not wearing any pants at all. So there's that. And my
I'm
daughter
wearing a skirt.
Makes it just much more family fun for Tennessee. So, yeah.
Trump, North Korea.
Yes, sir. That's something that we'll start with that one as a fun topic.
Oh yeah, fun.
I was just curious if when you heard that, if you guys felt like that was like really exciting, if you were just kind of meh about it, or whatever, or what were your thoughts when you heard that this was a potential thing coming up here pretty soon?
I just,
I guess I could throw it to somebody here. Let's go with Chris.
okay. Well, I'll see it when I believe it. North Koreans have never been trusted. They have, or trustworthy. I'm sorry. They, we've given them millions of dollars and they renege on every deal. So, I'll see it when I believe it. Hopefully that Trump does not negotiate with Little Rocket Man and give him lots of money or bend to his will.
Nicole?
I think what we're looking at right now is a reaction to China essentially returning to the system of Chairman Mao. If China starts buckling down on North Korea is completely screwed. Their best bet right now is to improve relations with the U.S. Otherwise, North Korea is done. If they can mend relations between the North and the South and improve relations with the U.S., then what China does won't matter to them anymore. So I think that's what opened up the idea for talks, because we already know that up till now, Little Kim has not been willing to play ball. So I guess it's going to depend entirely on China.
To be clear, we're talking about Kim Jong Il. Sorry, not Little Kim, the rapper, right?
Yes, still
Okay.
Little Kim.
Yeah, got it. So I kind of agree with what Chris was saying about I'll believe it when I see it. It is to me exciting because how many presidents have we gone through that kind of act like they're going to do something about it and try to make a step in the right direction, and like this is already farther along than any of those guys ever got. So that in and of itself is kind of what makes it interesting to me. Do you want to add anything to that, Trent?
If I remember correctly, using China's clout with North Korea was part of the talking points that Trump had before, just after his election. So it seems as if at least this might be going slightly to whatever plan he's running by. So I'm not really all that surprised. I'm not really following it, but it's interesting to see it unfold.
Right on.
It will. There's not a lot we can do but sit back and wait. But I think China has opened up the potential for this to maybe at least make some headway.
So if this meeting does happen, like I'm sitting here trying to imagine what could possibly come out of these talks, because what I'm to understand is the president or the dictators over there have been very interested in having a talk with the U.S. president, because it in some way legitimizes their power, whereas before we were just kind of ignoring them and pretending they didn't exist almost, while at the same time kind of acknowledging they exist. Does that make sense?
Well, that's why I said I'll see it when I believe it, because I don't think Kim Jong-un, whatever, or Little Rocket Man is going to agree to release nuclear power. And I don't think Trump is going to do anything if he doesn't do this. So I think that sanctions will strengthen. China was their hand was kind of forced by American politics to put sanctions in place against North Korea.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, fine.
You go.
I think that
You go ahead.
anything that we have to say on the topic, the U.S., and President Trump, will hinge on the disarming of North Korea and a border treaty between North and South Korea. I don't think that we would be able to play ball without those two things specifically. Right
on. So I think it's pretty fair to say that we're pretty much like normal, just in a holding pattern of wait and see what's going to happen. I know a lot of people that are against the idea are talking about how, well, there's no possible way he'll be prepared by then. We don't have anything ready to go. It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe there's been talks already going on behind the scenes, but we just don't know about it. Maybe they're not talks between discussions about, okay, if we do talk with Little Rocket Man, how are we going to go about doing that? Like, what are we going to talk about? But we just aren't seeing it in the mainstream media. So it's as if nothing's been discussed at all. I don't know. It's not
okay.
Yeah,
There's not a
we-
lot to go on until we have something in the works.
all we have basically is the equivalent of about a tweet worth of information to go off of, and just trying to speculate on what that is quite challenging. So let me take a little move into another country, and let's head on over to maybe we'll start with a little lighthearted topic, because I think the main topic I want to really stick on is the one about Brittany Pettibone, Lauren Southern, and Martin Sellner getting banned from the UK. That's probably where I want to focus the largest amount of attention our time. But before we get started, I want to cover something in the blockchain news, which I found incredibly interesting. Can you bring up the article for me, please? It's this last tab right here. So recently, what has happened is something I've been really paying attention to is alternative uses of the blockchain technology and how people are making use of it to use that decentralized, trustless idea, and how they're applying it to different areas. So what just happened recently in a country named Sierra Leone, or Sierra Leone region? I've never heard of this, so bear with me if I sound a little ignorant on it. At any rate, they actually used blockchain technology to have their first presidential election, so that there was no chance of anybody coming in and altering the election results or anything like that. Let me read a small piece here. Let's see. Okay, so it says, while the innovation technology has made tremendous strides in business, it's now putting a stamp upon the political sphere. In last week's presidential election in Sierra Leone, blockchain technology was used to verify voting results. However, the new tech was not used throughout the whole country. Rather, it was confined to the country's most populous region. Bear in mind, they're just getting started. I understand that. And for them to roll it out to the main, the entire country will take some time, I'm sure. But I was kind of curious what you guys had thought about, imagine if we had a scenario where we were actually participating in something like a blockchain based election instead of what we currently have now, where there's so much mystery and ambiguity that we don't really know if there's a lot of voter fraud and election hacking and all that crap. What do you think about that? Let's start with Trent this time.
Well, this is just an expansion of what we had with the secret ballot. It makes it easier for people to remain anonymous. That's one of the main things for cryptocurrencies and things like that, is the anonymity of it. So they can't be influenced to vote for this individual, as was brought up recently in the U.S. news, that women were forced or somehow influenced to vote for Trump in the recent election. But since we have the anonymity of the secret ballot, the only one who knows who you voted for is you, and depending on your belief system, God.
Nicole?
I'm actually on board with Trent. Though the influencing of the election, I think, was far less than was actually played up in the media. I think that being able to make it more anonymous, where it's legit just you and you who knows what happened, and there's no way for anyone else to even access that information until all they're seeing is a series of random numbers, is an improvement that, if it can be applied practically, would actually improve the voting system.
So to answer what you were saying there, one of the things that I was reminded of just now is, back during the election, there was a lot of people talking about how they would go in and they would vote for their chosen person that they want to vote for, and they would notice that their vote was being changed, or somehow was not what they input, like as if the program was automatically choosing something else for them. And there was really no way to go back in and check and verify and make sure, yeah, my vote was this and it's still that. With this particular system, that's one of the beauties of it, is you can go back in and check the distributed ledger, since it's unalterable, and see, yeah, this is where I voted, and my vote is still the same as exactly what I chose. It's been tampered with, it's been changed. You can verify all that. What do you think about it, Chris?
I really haven't done too much research into any blockchain type voting, but is it basically you're assigned a bit and you give that bit to whoever candidate you want, at that time?
From what I understand about it is basically it would be as if you have your own special private key, your own special identifying number that only you can have and nobody else can have. And if somebody else uses that number, it'll show up and you could be like, hey, I didn't vote. That's not me. And they can go back and what happened. But
on that, what if they say, you know, people aren't smart enough to know how to do this? They've said that time and time again, but just voter identification.
Oh yeah, they say that stuff all the time. Regardless, that's usually just dependent. Regardless of what system you use, they'll still say they say that right now that our voting system is complicated, that people can't figure it out, and that we have to change the voting system so that way they don't have to register because that's too complicated. Which inherently, when you say it like that, sounds really fucking racist, even though they're trying to be not racist.
People are just too dumb to figure out how to register to vote.
Right. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute. If these people are too dumb, if your argument is that people are too dumb to figure out how to register to vote, or they're too dumb to figure out how to register on a blockchain, then they're probably too dumb to be able to make an educated decision about who to vote for. They probably shouldn't be trusted with the power to vote.
No, that's racist, sir.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm just...
I really do think that there needs to be some tighter regulation on voting to begin with, because there's not.
Yeah, well, I like how it used to be. I was listening to a podcast a while ago talking about how in order to vote, you actually had to own property of some sort. And
property ownership and landsmen and businessmen were the prime target of being able to vote in the late 1700s, early 1800s for voting registration.
Right, exactly. So and what that would do, it kind of acted as an IQ test, so to speak. It's like if you were smart enough to figure out how to run a business and figure out how to own property, and you actually had some property, so that you obviously weren't going to vote against your interest in that case. You're gonna vote to protect that property. Now, as it is right now, you can vote whether you own anything or not. You can vote no matter what. And so if you're going to vote to take property from somebody else, well, that's not going to affect you, except it's going to benefit you. And it actually kind of has the reverse result of being an effective voting system. It becomes more of a two wolves and a sheep voting over what we're going to have for dinner tonight.
Well, I don't think that that's a viable standard anymore, just given that there's not that much property to own and most people have to rent because, I do think that the same standards that apply to start a business should have to apply to a voter's registration card.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I know that this particular solution, the blockchain idea, I appreciate it just because of the fact that it kind of eliminates, or not really kind of eliminates, it just does eliminate any chance of voter fraud, unless you're literally, taking somebody at gunpoint and forcing them to do a vote a particular way, and then it's pretty obvious what your intent is. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next subject here. Click, click, click. Yeah. Hey, you ever get into doing research and stuff and you realize you've got 5,000 tabs open and you can't figure out why?
That's literally every day for me.
Anytime I look at the computer.
My daughter came in earlier today. She says, "Dang, Dad, you got a lot of tabs." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm busy. Got a lot of work to do." Trying to figure shit out. And most of it's all last minute, crap that I've been trying to scrounge up together for this show. So I'll get better at it. I promise. So the today we got the walkouts at school going on, and it seems very I don't know. I'll let you guys kind of take this topic and see where this goes, but I'm really interested to see what you think about it. Let's start with Chris this time.
That was Nicole's turn.
Oh, sorry, Nicole. Let's go with Nicole.
Well, my personal take, I kept my kids home today. And before this happened, we got a lot of emails and notifications that it was going to be coming up. And I told them, and the majority of parents here in Portland in this school district, decided it was going to be up to us and whether or not our kids were allowed to even do this. So my kids stayed home. I don't have to send them to school. Attendance is one of the merits for which schools are given money. And if they want to politicize kids, my kids won't be there.
Right on. Trent?
My opinion on this, there was one post that has been bandied back and forth among the circles that I'm in on Facebook, that some of these things are mandatory and that not all the students want to participate. So if that is true, which who knows these days, we have ourselves a very strong problem with the educational system. Instead of allowing for free thinking, but instead forcing its opinions and forcing its own agenda on its students, rather than giving them the tools to decide their own fate.
Wait a minute. So how's that any different from just the general the schooling in and of itself? I mean, when you have an agenda to push and you're teaching the kids false history, or propaganda.
The difference between it is that instead of teaching them something and letting them internalize it and do it on their own through a series of manipulation, this is literally forcing them to do it whether they want to or not, which would be a couple steps down the line from just indoctrination.
Just that much closer. And Chris?
Well, I moved out to the country for that very reason. So I had the kids around here don't even know about this walkout. And then my oldest son, he's in the Air Force. So yes, I'm old. But, I think that the schools and colleges are failing our youth. I think parents are failing our youth. And I think parents need to step up and call this nonsense out for what it is, nonsense. And these teachers, when my son was in college, I was continually a thorn in that school side because, I didn't want my son writing a paper on the benefits of third wave feminism or things like that. So I think there's a major failure in our education system, and they need to get off the teaching their opinion or their thoughts in the moment and start teaching our kids things that are useful skills.
There has been a pushback by parents recently over the politicizing of education. A lot of people are very dissatisfied with it, and they are trying to fight back. Our problem is the district itself. The district doesn't answer to the parents, it answers to the state. If the state is on board, then they're happy to ignore us. So
they are until there's other avenues you can take. There's private school. There's homeschooling. There's ways you can get around that, and also you can still, back when I lived in Dallas, the entire staff at that school knew us by first name, both me and Danielle. Because, when we came in there, if they had a complaint or if they said, our son couldn't stand up for himself, he couldn't defend himself, we had an issue with that. So, and we made it very apparent in that school.
So it's interesting that we're talking about how when the state wants the school to do something, and since that's the source of their funding, that the schools tend to kind of go along with it. Up to a certain point. I mean, if enough of the parents are complaining, they might second guess it. But it seems interesting that you would think that the customer of your service, being education in this case, would be the children, or at least the parents of the children. And that just doesn't seem to be the case. And as a result, we have all the incentives misaligned to the point where now we've got this situation where the kids are just kind of like, fodder for the cannon. They're just there to act as bodies to fill a spot in order to get funding to pay the teacher salaries. And
Right.
Arguably the entire school system in and of itself, I mean, this is a much bigger topic, of course, is completely obsolete, especially in today's world where you can learn all that stuff. Anything they teach you at school, you can learn online, probably way better, way faster, and much more engaging and interactive environment than you can in the public school system.
And that's why I'm a proponent of school choice. let the funds, which are paid by the parents, taxpayers, not the state. The state doesn't have any money. They get that from the parents. Let the funds follow the child. Then the schools actually have to compete to get that child in the school. If a school is doing these off the wall, you're going to protest and it's mandatory. Well, the parents don't like this. Say, well, this school over here didn't do that. We'll go here.
Now, Haley, Haley's my daughter. She's here watching with us, just hanging out. Did you hear anything about a school walkout or anything today at school? You heard about it somewhere else? You've heard about it? Yeah, she says she's heard about it, but not at school, which I didn't. I would have been surprised if this particular school would have done anything like that, because I live in a very conservative area and they do tend to lean more Republican and stuff. So the idea of having a big, what's it called? Well, hell, I'm having a brain fart right now. Virtue signaling. Walkout in this area, I just didn't see that happening. So it didn't even cross my mind until it was brought up, before the show here. And I did.
Even the local private schools, the Catholic school and the private academy down the street, all participated. Every last one of them.
Oh wow, that's
okay.
Terrible.
Well,
I gotta call it. So y'all guys take care. And 30 minutes in, y'all have a great conversation. It was great talking to y'all.
All right,
it was nice to meet you, Chris.
Yes.
All right. So I guess with that, if there's nothing else you guys would like to address with that particular scenario.
Yes. Everyone who's listening, stop politicizing children.
Great idea. Wait. No, we need the children to dangle in front of the voters to get our laws passed. And we can't take guns away from people unless we dangle children in front of them. So we need them.
No.
Hard so what would we dangle in front of the guns?
The liberals?
That's terrible. I'm pretty sure you're inciting violence right now. I'm gonna have to report you to the Google gods right now. At any rate, yeah. So let me move on to the last subject, the main subject, if you will. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, about Brittany Pettibone, Lauren Southern, and Martin Sellner, where a few conservative, right-leaning pundits or commentators or whatever the word is for it nowadays, they actually, upon trying to enter the UK, were banned from entering the UK. Under this idea of the Anti-Terrorism Act. I'd actually listened to Lauren Southern on a couple different interviews where she was actually detained upon entry and held in a detention facility under the Anti-Terrorism Act, and then asked some really strange questions like, how do you feel about running over groups of people with a vehicle, and she was asked about her extremist Christian ideas. Have you guys heard about that?
I have heard of it. I haven't heard a very lot of detail. All I know is that a couple of people were barred, handcuffed, and then tossed out of the UK because of their ideology.
What I've heard is a great many things. What I know is that she was turned around and told she couldn't come after she had already been there, kind of just stirring up trouble. Many times. I think that she was on a do not enter list anymore. I don't think that it was a matter of anti-terrorism or anything like that. I think a lot of that is her asking for attention. But honestly, if we had someone from, let's say, Saudi Arabia or Pakistan coming and criticizing us and our government and everything and how we do things, and we had told them they needed to leave and kicked them out, would we let them back in?
I guess with that story, I would not have a personal problem with them criticizing anything, because that kind of falls under the idea of free speech, as long as they're not actually hurting anybody or acting.
If they have valid arguments, that's when we start having to differentiate between ideas Because if they just say, yeah,
And this
come overstay sucks.
this is where we separate ourselves from the UK, because the UK does not have free speech in the same manner that we do. We, so long as they are not inciting violence or destroying property, can say and do whatever we please. Whereas in the UK, if you are citing something called civil unrest, you are committing a misdemeanor crime. I can't word good.
Right. So I don't have a problem with that at all. If they're going to kick her out because she is causing what did you just call it again?
Civil unrest.
Civil unrest. If she's causing civil unrest and they don't want her in her country, by all means, do what you will. You are a free country. You can do what you want. The problem for me is when they don't apply that same logic consistently, when they're trying to constantly kowtow to the Islamic religion there that's going around doing all sorts of God only knows what, that's way worse than whatever she's coming up with. And they're treating them as if they're some kind of victims and they need to be saved and we need to bring it. And it's this political bullshit that keeps getting shoved down everybody's throat. And if it was just applied consistently,
I agree entirely. I think that they have pandered to their refugees in an unfair manner. I don't disagree with what was done with Miss Southern and Miss Pettibone, because that was a legal course of action as far as their country is concerned. However, it should be applied equally to absolutely anyone else.
Right. Now I feel like, which from according to what she was saying on the interviews I heard her on, she was saying that the when she was being held under the Anti-Terrorism Act law or whatever, it was kind of a temporary reasoning to hold her in, because as soon as they got the paperwork from some other agency that deals with who's allowed to come in and out of the country and whatnot,
they were waiting for documents from the Secretary of State.
Yeah, they just kind of cut the whole thing off short and said, all right, here's your paperwork. It says you can't be here.
It was a temporary detainment procedure to turn her around and send her home, but they had to have authorization from the Secretary of State to do it.
So I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with calling her a terrorist, which she never claimed that was the case. But they did hold her under the Anti-Terrorism Act,
right,
as a means of detaining her for the time being. Which
right, and any questions that she was asked or something would have been standard procedure under the act for which they had to detain her while they waited for everything. But I think that a lot of that has been played up, particularly by her, because she likes attention.
I get the sense that you really don't appreciate her.
I don't like her very much. I don't like anyone who likes to just go and start trouble for the sake of it.
I mean, that's understandable. It's completely understandable. Oh, go ahead, Trent.
I was going to say, that's pretty much what we're doing in the eyes of some. By merely expressing our opinion, we're causing trouble.
So I do understand a lot of people will do what's called the social experiments and things like that. And I know one of the things that she in particular was doing was there was this Vice article that came out that suggested that Jesus might have been a gay guy. And and nobody's gonna trip out about it. There's no Christian alive that's, they might argue with you about it, but they're not gonna start violence or anything like that. And she and her team or whoever her partner, I don't know who she was doing it with, but what they were doing was taking that same principle and saying, okay, let's see what would happen if we went and tried to call Muhammad gay. What would happen? How would that be handled? And we kind of have an idea how that would be handled. Some people have gone up to and including murdering and killing people for much less than that. Just simply drawing a picture of Muhammad, not insulting him, just drawing a picture of him is enough to get you murdered in some of these countries.
Yeah. France apparently being one of those countries.
Right. It's a damn shame. Now I don't personally have a problem with Lauren Southern's work. I do really appreciate what she's been doing in terms of the South Africa documentary that she's been working on. And I've been following along with that, which is a huge deal. If anybody wants to study some real racist shit that's going on right now, that's where you need to look, is down in South Africa.
Oh God. Yeah. That's terrifying. And I am really happy to see that Australia is finally doing something to reach out to those people.
Right. And getting called racist for it, of course.
Absolutely. But that's okay, because you know what? We're all racist anyway. We've just accepted it and moved on.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, you just have a certain tone. I think I heard it called the paper bag test lately. if you're lighter than the tone of a paper bag, then hey, you're a racist or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so one of the things that was a problem with was one of the people that we haven't mentioned as much was Martin Sellner. He was
Give me 1 second.
Okay, what you got?
Oh no, I my phone is going off and it's important. Oh. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So anyway, we got Martin Sellner was supposed to be giving a speech, and what has actually turned out to happen? They were trying to shut him down. Didn't want him giving the speech. Is the gist of what I got. Now, we've got this scenario where right now, Tommy Robinson, who is in London, is going to take that same speech and he's going to deliver it at 3 p.m. at Speaker's Corner in London, at London time. Welcome back, Nicole.
Sorry, I have a sick dog and I was getting an update.
No, I was just telling everybody about the Mark Sellner speech that he was not allowed to give because he was turned away.
Mm-hmm.
Has actually been delivered to Tommy Robinson, and Tommy Robinson is now going to deliver that exact same speech Sunday, 3 p.m. London time at Speaker's Corner. If anybody would like to check that out and see what that was about. Their big message is you can eliminate the speaker, but you're not going to eliminate the speech. It's pretty powerful.
Well, that's something that I've actually said many, many times is ideas don't die. If someone else is willing to adopt it, then it's just spread from one person to another. Just removing someone from being able to say it doesn't mean it won't be said.
Yeah, and it's interesting. These countries are, well, let's just stick with the UK at this point. They're turning away a lot of people that tend to be right-leaning, or that they're kind of accused of wrong think, so to speak, because they don't agree with the standard narrative. And as a result, what's happening is it's actually drawing a lot more attention to these topics, and a lot more people are sitting there going, huh, they don't seem that bad. Why are they being turned away? Like, what's the problem here? And then they start looking into their work and they start learning these messages, and they're like, oh. And then when you start getting people, on board with these ideas, and it becomes a bigger deal. Versus if you would have just let them speak, we probably wouldn't have even heard about it. It probably would have been local news a little bit or whatever, or they could have got a little bit of media attention if that's what they were looking for, which is fine. I don't have no problem with that. But when you sit there and try to shut people down, and you do it in this manner where it's this slimy little, like, oh, the laws say this, so we have the right to do. I get it. That's whatever. But, we know what you're doing. You're just using your laws to do it.
The louder you object to a topic, the more people will hear about the topic.
Exactly. Which kind of, for that very same reason on another side of the spectrum is the exact same reason a lot of people are getting turned on to ISIS and joining in all these little subgroups of ISIS fighters. Mm-hmm. It's just the same thing. You're trying to shut down the ideas versus just ignoring them or countering them, or show them how they're wrong, and let's have out those ideas on the public forum. That's the best way to get rid of these, and the best way to battle these bad ideas is to give them a microphone, shine a light on them, and say, hey, if you got a great idea, let's hear it, and we'll discuss it.
Well, I'm not quite sure how that particular group would handle a public forum. I'm pretty sure they'd just burn it down. But I agree on the principle. It's when you try to shut down an idea, when you try to fight an idea, you enforce that idea, and it becomes a rock and a hard place for everyone involved, for those who are trying to say, no, this is a bad thing. You shouldn't do this thing. Because now they've drawn attention to that thing and there's more of that thing.
Right. Don't talk. Don't
exactly.
Words. We would much rather see you guys fight. Which ultimately, I'm pull out my conspiracy theory hat. I feel like that's exactly what the elites want, is for people to be divided and to fight. They don't want us talking. and it's being done specifically to divide people between black and white, between man and woman, between Muslim and Christian, between, you know, all these different little groups that seem like there's like an A and there's a B. It's like, no. Life is way more complicated than that. There's more than just side A or side B. There's more than just Republican and Democrat. You know, you gotta look at the bigger picture here and figure out, okay, what's all the little nuances and stuff, and why is it that they're not wanting us to see all the middle ground? Why is it that they want to just stand in between us and keep on pitting us against each other constantly? Oh, it's because they know what's going to happen if we get pissed off enough. Ugh. Makes me fucking sick. The whole thing does. Anyway, so I noticed we have 4 viewers watching, and I haven't heard anything from any of them. So, you know, hey, peek in, say hi. Let me know you're still alive. You know, I just need to know that you're not Russian bots watching our live stream, just so that way you can get me in trouble with Russia and, you know, call me a Russian sympathizer, and I don't need all that, especially if I go running for president someday. Not likely to happen.
I'm sorry. If you run for president, you're probably going to be counting on those Russian bots.
I heard that. I'm going to need a lot of them, and they need to be really good at blockchain.
Very good Russian bots.
Like, we need your Russian bots to be very convincing. We need you to speak like American.
Yes.
Trent's just smiling.
He's just yeah.
No, it's funny because I've been taking Russian recently. I'm trying to think of all the phrases I've learned.
Hey, give me something good, man. Give me a line of Russian there.
Oh crap! No, I can't do that because the moment I try to think of it, it doesn't work.
When we go off air, you need to speak Russian to us then.
Yep.
I'm cornering you.
Put the pressure on him.
Absolutely.
Polka.
So, is there any other particular topics you guys have found interesting in the last week that you'd like to bring to the audience's attention?
The only thing that I can think of that I was surprised you actually didn't bring up was it was a third bombing in Texas. This week or last week. This is the third one.
Can you tell me about all of them? Because I am aware of them peripherally, but to be honest, I don't know anything about that. So
I only looked over it quite briefly within one of my circles, and it seems as if 3 different devices were placed in 3 different locations and have killed at least 1 individual. One was at, I believe, an elderly woman's home. And it's unclear whether the motivation is personal, but the other theory is that it is a quote-unquote apprentice bomb maker testing out delivery systems and testing out devices.
Oh, yay. That sounds like fun. This is going on in Texas, of all places.
In Texas, of all places. But
wait, what part of Texas?
It was either around...
Don't tell me it's Austin.
It was either Austin or Dallas.
That would be too predictable. If you told me it's Austin, that would be way too predictable.
I'm going to do a quick search.
All right. Yeah, do that. Well, have you heard about this, Nicole?
Not at all, actually. This is the first time it's coming into my peripherals here.
Interesting.
I haven't heard anything about it.
First thing I thought was, well, if it's Austin, that's got to be a liberal stronghold of Texas, and that would probably be the only place that something like this would be likely to happen because the perpetrator is not afraid of actually getting shot.
It actually is Austin.
It is Austin.
Oh, did I call that or what?
Anywhere else in Texas, they'd be like, boy, is that a bomb? There would be no more.
So Celtic Rune Singer in the chat says, from Russia with love. Hi. I knew it. I knew I had Russian bots watching. Thank goodness. We're not alone here. God, am I a professional asshole or what? Like,
you kind of are, but that's why we're friends.
All right, I take that. I deserve that.
Assholes are the best friends, though.
It's true. It's true.
And they smell terrible. Oh, you're talking about... Never mind.
Well, I do kind of smell right now, so...
Anyway, if anybody that's is actually viewing this at this point has any particular questions that they would like to ask of us, regardless of what it is, we can handle it. We're all adults here. You know, this is a show that we're having uncomfortable conversations without a condom. Yeah.
This sounds more like the
Awkward
plastic
plug.
bag challenge than anything.
I need one of those shirts, Daniel.
You need
I
one?
do. I need one.
I do believe I can
So
make
bad.
that happen. I do believe I can make that happen. Just remind me after the show. At any rate.
3 weeks later, he doesn't have the shirt.
Now, 3 weeks later, I'm wearing it on my show. What are you
That's
talking
right. That'd be awesome. So just as a quick outro, if you will, here. I think we've covered some pretty important topics, and just for future's reference here, what I want to try to do, I've been thinking about this Wednesday live show idea a little more, quite a bit more actually, trying to figure out how to work it out, what kind of format to do. So if there's any particular type of ideas that you might have, please let me know. About some kind of little segments that we can do or something to make it fun. I don't care. I'm open to ideas, but my basic idea is to take a few topics or interesting things that I have learned throughout the week and bring it to you Wednesday night, so that I'm actually able to get the ideas out without having to produce an individual show for each one, because that's a pain in the ass.
It is.
To do with my work schedule. So that's the general idea, is to bring on some friends, have a discussion, talk about what's new and what's awesome and what's interesting or what's really fucked up in the world, or whatever the case may be. And then we just go from there. And I'd like to eventually have enough people watching these live streams that we have some audience participation and we have some questions coming in and things like that. So that would be really cool.
That would be cool.
So at any rate, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this one off now, because I think we've already covered everything.
Yeah,
So
I think we went through it.
I do appreciate you guys coming, Nicole and Trent and Chris. If you're still watching, I do appreciate you coming and joining us as well. You guys have been watching and having your mind unframed. It's another episode of Unframe of Mind. Peace out, y'all. And now I got to find the stop broadcast button in an awkward way of leaving the show.